Time now to talk to the government. The Health Minister and Conservative MP for Lewis, Maria Caulfield, joins us this morning. You picked the short straw then on a bank holiday Monday, but we appreciate you making time for us. You've had the long weekend to consider the results of the local elections. I'm interested for your reaction.
Yeah, well, clearly what the results show is that while they're very disappointing to be losing some really hard-working councillors, actually when you look at what the opinion polls were saying, that Labour had a 20-point lead, actually when the analysis has been done, it's much tighter than that, between 7 to 9 points. And experts are saying if this was reflected in a general election, that actually Labour wouldn't be winning a majority. It would be more like a hung parliament, and then depending on parties like the Lib Dems and the SNP to form a government. And so actually our message from that is we need to continue to deliver on the priorities people have asked us to deliver on. And come a general election, they will have a much tougher choice to make, whether they want Keir Starmer as their Prime Minister or Rishi Sunak, who is delivering on things. The economy is improving, NHS waiting lists are down for the 5th month in a row, and we are turning the tide on the illegal immigration and small boats.
That's your focus on Labour there, but you can't deny that the Conservatives lost 474 seats in the local elections, lost control of 12 councils, lost mayors as well. It wasn't a good local election season for you, and that's undeniable.
Absolutely. Very disappointing, particularly with Andy Street. But when these seats were fought the last time, there was a particularly high bar for the Conservative Party. It's always difficult when you've been in government, and voters can send a message to a party in government that they're unhappy about certain things, with the safe knowledge that they still have a Conservative government in control. It's very different at come a general election where they really do have to make a choice. If you look at Blackpool South, for example, the vast majority of our voters that voted for us in 2019 stayed at home. They didn't switch to Labour, they didn't switch to Reform, they stayed at home. And that shows that they haven't really been tempted by other parties, but they need us to deliver on the economy, on the NHS, on immigration, on the 5 points that the Prime Minister set out, which were what we set out to achieve in 2019. And we're starting to make some inroads on that. So by the time the election comes, people should feel that difference and not just know that it's happening in theory.
With respect, though, that feels, is it not, too little too late, that in an election year you can't get your own voters to come out and support your party? Is that not indicative of the fact that the plan that you say you're trying to follow isn't doing enough, isn't delivering enough?
Well, if you look since the election in 2019, within 8 weeks of the general election, COVID hit, and the country was in lockdown for almost 2 years. So that meant that 2 years of our kind of time to get a lot of this done was taken away, because we had to deal with the pandemic, we had to save people's jobs, we had to get the NHS back on track. Within the 18 months that Rishi Sunak has been Prime Minister, our waiting lists are coming down compared to where Labour run the health service in Wales. People are still waiting 2 years for procedures and operations there. It's between 6 to 9 months in England. If you look at the economy, we've just delivered another cut in national insurance for working people. That's about £900 a year. People start to feel that in their pocket. That's only possible because Rishi and the government got inflation down. He always was very clear on that when he stood as Prime Minister. You've got to tackle inflation before you can do the tax cuts. Inflation is down and tax cuts are coming. On immigration, we have fought such a battle with people like the House of Lords, with the Labour Party, to get our Rwanda plan through. But despite that, we've also been, we deported 25,000 people last year. We've been tackling the backlog. We've closed 150 of those hotels. People will start to see that plan working. That doesn't just happen by chance. It doesn't happen in a few weeks. That takes months to get that sort of progress. And people will start to see and feel that difference on those key issues.
You bring us nicely on to reports from Sky News this morning. We've seen documents from the government that there were plans potentially to send asylum seekers to Iraq. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm not aware of those details. Our plan is around Rwanda, and we have detained people that are being kind of earmarked for flights to Rwanda. Once those flights take off, there will be a steady drumbeat of flights going on a regular basis. I'm not aware of those plans that you talk about for other countries. Our focus is really on getting that Rwanda plan working, but also tackling immigration overall. You look at the deals we did with Albania, for example. Albanian illegal migrants are down 90%. So there is work going on with other countries, but the focus at the moment is getting those flights off the ground.
Regardless as to whether or not, and I appreciate your brief does not cover this, regardless as to whether or not you've seen those plans, people will surely be asking whether it is appropriate to discuss it in the first place, considering that the UK government does not recommend that Brits travel to Iraq. You've seen so much debate and division over whether or not Rwanda is a safe country. It surely goes without reason that the concept of sending people to Iraq is nonsensical.
Well, I haven't seen those plans, so I can't really comment. But on your point about is Rwanda a safe country, the Parliament has determined that it is. I've spent probably more than most time in Rwanda. I spent a number of summers there, both working, volunteering in nursing and teaching English. And Rwanda, is a very welcoming. It's an up and coming country, and I find some of the discussions around Rwanda, is it safe, pretty worrying, to be honest. And I think officials from Rwanda have found that quite insulting too. So we have got a plan for Rwanda, and we are in the process of getting people detained, and we'll be going to Rwanda shortly. That's the focus that we're doing. If you put, as your original question was saying about why how are they thinking about the general election ahead, ask Labour what their plan is. They can't even determine whether they would keep the Rwanda scheme should it be successful. They say they would scrap it, but have no plan of their own to tackle immigration. They're performing far worse in Labour-run Wales on the health service than we are in England.
We'll speak to Labour later in the programme. You also want to talk about what you hope will also be a vote winner this morning.
Yes, so absolutely. So we're announcing this morning our plans around making sure that any future public spaces for toilets are single-sex space. This is a particular issue for women. Polling shows that women who use those mixed-sex toilets, about 60% feel very uncomfortable in doing so. So having protected single-sex spaces for women going forward, we'll bring legislation forward to enable that to happen. May seem like a small issue, but actually it's really important to women. And when we've done our consultation, about 80% of people support this change. And it's a part of a wider narrative that we have about supporting women. We've just published our NHS constitution, again, protecting same-sex spaces in hospitals, enabling women to be able to ask the people of the same biological sex to care for them, to carry out investigations. We want to make sure that women feel safe in the public space, and there is no doubt that this is something that women have been asking for quite a long time.
Maria Caulfield joining us this morning on a bank holiday. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.